Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad that you could be with Jan and I today. Hey, Jan.
Hey, Steve. Hey, everybody. Excuse me for laughing, Steve, but that opening tune will never grow old for me.
No, absolutely not. No, it won't. No, in fact, like I say, I've always been a fan of up-tempo music, but as I've gotten older, especially when I got into well, I'm still in my 40s, but this is the end of the 40s for me. But when I got into my early 40s, I started appreciating the slower stuff a little more. So,
Yeah.
um,
Not for anything, Steve, but can you please cut me a piece of that pie?
sure. Now, we this goes back a little ways for you and I. We had done it was a recipe thing, I think. I'm sure it's somewhere in my videos. Heaven knows which one it is. It has to do where we talked about no bake cheesecakes.
Yes.
And you can usually pick up the kits in the store for pretty much next to nothing. I don't know what they run now. The last time I bought one, they were in the threes, but I don't know
Yes.
what they cost today. And you could always put this together. Does it necessarily have to be cherry pie filling? No, you could go any route.
Yes.
Get a load of this. This is a good one that many may not think about. How about making a cheesecake? But if you're trying to keep your cost of filling down, guess what? That's not saying you couldn't put apple over the top.
Of course.
An apple cheesecake, what that would be scrumptious.
I think that was one of my mom's favorites, some sort of apple
Apple
thing. We
cream
used to
pie,
talk with her all the time
because we
about
used
that.
to chat about that all the time, and I do remember what it is. The only thing my recollection of an apple cream pie is something what I just referred to. It has to do with a cheesecake or a fluffy type
Like a
cream,
mousse or
like
something.
a mousse, and then the apple across the top. And it's really good. I think I had it one time in a restaurant many years ago, maybe as a preteen or something, and that's probably why I remember it.
You
Is
won
it
her heart over when you mentioned that apple
did
cream that you knew about.
Yeah, yeah, I did, and it's a good thing. They're delicious and tasty.
But I have to say that picture looks amazing. You know what it is why we're bringing up the pie. We got the springtime holidays coming up. And it's interesting, Steve, those pies, as we mentioned in the past, can go literally from the sublime to the ridiculous. Now, I had mentioned to Steve in conversation earlier today that I was considering, it's not written in stone, I was considering like getting some sugar-free cheesecake pudding, which I never tried before,
Mhm.
and somehow incorporating it with a mixture of cream cheese and so on. And Steve's like adamant about, oh, if you could avoid sugar free because the chemicals, and I do agree. And I said, well, okay, so just maybe we'll leave that out and just maybe take a more natural approach, put sugar in it, but a lot less of it. And with the vanilla extract and other ways to doctor it up and
Yeah,
do, you're
yeah.
right, at home version. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you were adamant about that, Steve, because I don't really love the idea of the chemicals either, to be
No.
honest with you.
Well, back when, I had gone a lot of weight loss back in 2004, and I literally had to go back and revamp my diet completely, eliminate the sodas. The only thing I really drink now, this is just one variation of it, is called Spindrift. It's a seltzer water. I
Yeah.
had done a review on it. It's in maybe a year or so back, maybe 2, but I'm not saying specifically that one. You got Polar Brand, you've got Buble, you've got LaCroix, you've got different seltzer waters. So if I want something bubbly with a little flavor, that's what I go after.
Yeah.
Um, but I eliminated all sodas. Soda's not good for you. The
No.
diet is even worse. Now we're back to the chemicals again.
Yeah.
Um, but I literally had to do a complete flip turnaround of my diet. A lot of it wasn't really what I ate, although that was part of it. A lot of it had to do with the way the food was prepared.
Yes. Yes. You know what it is too, Steve? In our environment, there are a lot of things we cannot control. I cannot control the air around me. I cannot control the environmental problems, as far as like breathing in bad chemicals or whatever. You can't. But if there are things that we can control, like, yeah, I'll take more of a natural approach with my natural cream cheese and put in a little less or a lot less of natural sugar in there, and honey, like we were discussing, is
Yes,
such a right? What an alternative, sweetener
my
better.
mom, my mom, God rest, I hope you're well. She swore by honey. I mean, that was her thing. Remember now, my mom was a Sicilian lady. Um, I mean, she would eat ice cream, and things like that, yes, with sugar in it. But when it came to like her coffee and certain things like that, she was a honey person. Tea, honey. It's funny about me and tea. I got to jump in on that for a minute. I can drink iced tea. I usually do like a half and half. That's okay with sugar. I'm fine with that. But if I do hot teas, I have to have the honey.
Yes.
Um,
It gives it like a different body to it. It just, I don't know, it just changes the whole complexity. I agree with you on that. So we're really mentioning here about like really wise choices and stuff like that. And you and I also were discussing about like certain smart things that our parents have instilled in us. And one thing
mhm.
I'd like to mention that I never forgot, not that I would ever go out really late when I was, a teen or whatever, but my parents had a very strict rule. If for whatever the reason you're going to be even 5 or 10 minutes delayed, call home, call home. And I always did. And I kept my word and I got back. Like if I'm going to be 10 minutes past my curfew, I would call home so they wouldn't worry, and then that was the reasoning behind it. So moms and dads usually have really great ideas. And I love the idea that you mentioned about your mom and when people wake up in the morning, not to what was that again?
What she always said, and I've been doing it for years and years. She said, when you first wake up, don't just get up and get straight out of bed. When you wake up, on the minimal side, lay there for at least 15 minutes. I've been known to lay 30, 45, depends on how I feel. Then you get up because it gives your body time enough to catch up.
It's true. And it's a great opportunity to like gather your thoughts, in my opinion, for the upcoming day. Like just this morning, I had mentioned this to Steve, in the green room before we went on here. I said, something, Steve, I remember years ago when I was a kid, like you get up, jump up. Well, I said, well, I'm
Mhm,
not a kid anymore. And then I remembered like your mom's, wise wisdom with that. It's true. So I just like, oh, it's just like laying there collecting my thoughts or whatever.
mhm,
And it's true to have the 15, 20, whatever it is, half hour, and then just like gradually get up. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I think people take those things for granted, but that was wise information from your mom.
mhm. Um, this probably comes from both sides, both mom and dad, that they said, Steve, this is probably why I'm bad about asking for anything because people that know me that know that I will not do that. Mom and dad always said throughout the years, Steve, you're going to be by yourself. If there's anything that has to be done, you're going to have to be the one to do it. Otherwise, it's not going to get done. Well, I kind of took what they said to heart, which made me very independent.
I
And
cannot believe you said this at this time. That's wonderful that you did. And there's a reason I'll tell you, but I know you want to mention more of what you're about to say.
the only other thing I wanted to say is that it made me very independent. I handle my own affairs, what I have to do, instead of me asking for something or for help. I'm not saying that I won't, but it has to be like an extremely, extremely last resort. I tend to handle my affairs and my matters on my own.
That's
Um,
good. That's
yeah.
great.
Um, what's bad is if somebody tries to offer me help, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do because I'm so used to doing it myself.
Yeah, the best thing you say is thank you. It's nice to know that you're there for me if I need you, and if I need you, I'll let you know. That's the way I would handle it. You know why I'm so impressed that you said it at this time? Because you didn't know this, but this morning I recorded a video for next Thursday, Steve, in reference to a comment that I received today, because I had another video up this morning, and the person said that apparently that I'm used to doing things on my own. Well, actually, we are all always responsible for ourselves, and especially in our financial lives. So you bring that up was amazing. And the video for next week, Steve, talks about a woman and a man. The woman used to sit back in the back seat mentally of her financials, let her husband run the whole show. Well, he died and left her in a lurch. She didn't know what she was doing. So I get into that next week. No, Steve, I love that advice. Your parents were great to remind you that they're not going to be around forever.
No,
And you have to pick it up on your own. And the problem is there's not enough financial education at home or at school.
there's
That's
not.
really bad.
And the bad part about this is that even in today's world and today's times, um, the way teaching is in today's, it's not like when you and I went. It's a
No,
completely,
no, it's not.
you know,
I relied on my chalk and my blackboard
hmm
and a lot of talking.
right.
But there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
hmm
But Steve, I can't help but love that picture that you have behind. Look, you even have a cup of coffee there to go with it. That
I
was
do.
good.
Well, there's the restaurant is still around, but it's not anywhere near.
It's not anywhere near what, Steve?
There's a place called Famous Amos. Sorry, I had a text come in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. I remember that name. I think that was a cookie, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was called, yeah, Famous Amos. There is a cookie around it, but it's also a restaurant. But you only got one or two in town. But once upon a time, it had a completely different feel. Had different ownership. It had more of a southern feel. Back in
Right.
those days, they offered a cherry cheesecake. It looked very similar to this, as a matter of fact,
Oh my
and
word.
it was to die for. It had the cherry pie filling, the graham cracker crust, the whole nine. Um, oh, it
That
was
sounds like
delicious.
an amazing place. Was it affiliated with the cookie
That
company?
I don't that I'm not sure about, but it was very Southern style based restaurant. They would bring you biscuits to the table when you first
Wow,
went in.
nice,
It
nice.
was pretty good. Yeah, but it's changed. That you only got like 2 or 3 in town now.
Right.
Completely different, not the
But, you know,
same.
at least these restaurants and old-timey recipes that they use are good inspirations for us. I am convinced that we could duplicate almost anything that we see. I'm not saying it's going to taste exactly the same. Who knows? The one that we do at home might even taste a little bit better. We don't know unless we try. It always pays to try. And that goes for dessert. So I'm really glad. The bottom line, I'm glad you remind me, Jen. Nix that sugar-free pudding, and so I'm going to modify to the way. Now you remember. Thank you for also reminding me. There's an Atkins. Remember Dr. Atkins, lower carb. Very simple. This is no bake. So if you don't like baking a cheesecake, there is no baking involved, and the exact portions out that you need, the measurements. You could look this up online, but basically the idea is to take your electric mixer and your cream cheese, okay, and some whipping cream. These are zero carb foods or very low trace, maybe one, something like that. And you add whatever sweetener you decide to use, and vanilla extract, and a little bit, not a lot, just eyeball it. Well, I eyeball everything. A little bit of either, I think, half and half or milk, just to dilute it slightly. Like a couple of tablespoons, maybe three, and then you mix it together. Then you put it with whatever you're using as a crust. Okay. Now I'm going to be slightly bad, if you will, my crust. I'm going to take the toasted, the crunchy granola bars, and I'm just going to crush it. You don't have to add sugar. It's made with honey. It's already sweet. And then for the topping, I'll put that over it. Then the topping, I'll just crush some more of that granola on top. And that's a pretty healthy pie. So, Steve, there are ways and there are ways to get around it.
Hmm. There is.
So,
But this was I'm glad that we were able to come on here and talk about, the cheesecake, talking about, some of the things that our parents instilled into us. And even now, even though these were things that were told to me as a very small child.
that they still come back to life and they're relevant for you.
Yeah.
And also something to instill in our own children. I remember distinctly saying, to my daughter, listen, no matter what, if something happens, you've got to call me and let me know right away. She was always very diligent about it, but 99% of the time came back on time and everything was great. And when she couldn't, was a few minutes running late, and that was okay. The call came
Mhm.
in. So these are
Yeah.
important things. Yeah. Well, Steve, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm glad that all of you out there that are tuning in could be here with us as well. This was a great little segment. Didn't really, because sometimes, Jan knows this about me. But what are we going to talk about today? Um, and then I'll just sit here and think, well, Steve, we can just put something together because I know you guys just love us as a whole. I've seen, a lot of the comments that come back, and they love seeing us together. I'm sorry about I had to look off to my right. My roommate, best friend, sometimes he'll chime in, but sometimes he doesn't know really what I'm doing, and I never told him I was going to do a video, so that's on me for not telling him. But
That happens. There is one thing, Steve, I forgot to inject. This is in reference to Steve's super thanks. Now, I know that Steve hit that goal, but that doesn't mean it's all over. Please feel free to super thank him at any time. I'm just saying, and also my channel too, if you really like my content a lot.
yes,
Saying it costs money for myself to support the channel all the time. So use your
yes,
handle.
yeah, it cost me money as well. I
Yes.
mean, most people may not realize this about Jan and I. We use a service called StreamYard. Um, the service that we use, yes, we have to pay a monthly fee to use it.
And in order to get all the bells and whistles like we use, we get the paid for one.
Right.
There's a free one if you want to try it to, see how it feels to be
Yeah, but they say
stream.
on the free one, I guess they've made some adjustments to it that
Yeah, they cut back on some of the freebie
some of
deals.
the options is just not there.
And of course,
So,
to run the internet itself, to run the internet. I mean, listen, we're not crying. We're happy to do it. But just saying that those super thanks are totally used to support our channels. And thank you so much.
you're welcome. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here, whatever time of day it is. And Jan and I picked a good closing.
Happy spring, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Yes, finally. It was a little nippy this morning. It was about 45, which is still chilly for my area. Usually
Sure.
this Yeah, usually this time of year I'm in the low 60s, not 45.
I know.
When I'm in Florida, keep that in mind too. So that doesn't help. Okay, everybody. I'm glad you all could be here today, tonight, whatever time you're viewing this. And Jan and I will see you guys back here next time. Bye
Bye,
for now.
everybody.
Bye.